Last October, I pulled the explanation of benefits off my kitchen table, the one the insurance company sends after a hospital visit. Yellow highlighter, same as always. I went through it, line by line. There it was, a charge from a specialist who had treated me in the emergency room. The statement listed it as out-of-network coinsurance, $412. I called the hospital's billing office. They confirmed the doctor was out of network. They said I owed it. What nobody knew at the time was that a federal law had been in effect for nearly a year that prohibited exactly that bill. The hospital could not charge me more than my in-network rate for emergency care, regardless of whether the treating doctor was in my network. That $400 bill was not a billing error, it was a billing violation. That was the first one. I have since found two more charges on my own statements that providers were not permitted to bill me for. Different rules, different protections, same pattern. The bill arrives looking official, it carries a due date, and it gets paid because nobody explained the rules the billing office chose to ignore. I am not a lawyer. I am not from the government. My name is Dale Corbin. I am 68 years old. I live on the same fixed check you do, and I read the fine print because I had to. This is how to check whether these protections apply to your own statements. It is not legal or financial advice. I'm going to walk you through all three charges: real form numbers, real phone numbers, and the exact words to say when you call. None of this requires a law degree or a financial advisor. The hardest part is knowing to look. How does someone end up paying a bill they never legally owed? The billing office sends it, it looks correct, and nobody sends you the rule book they were supposed to follow. Let us go through them one at a time. Charge number 1. The Emergency Room Balance Bill prohibited under the No Surprises Act. In January 2022, a federal law called the No Surprises Act went into effect as part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. It does one specific thing that patients in emergency rooms are rarely told about. If you receive emergency services at any hospital, even a hospital that is in your network, the providers who treat you cannot charge you more than your in-network cost-sharing amount. Even if the treating doctor, the anesthesiologist, or the radiologist was not in your network, you pay your in-network rate. That is the rule. The same protection covers non-emergency services at in-network facilities when out-of-network providers are involved, unless you signed a written consent form at least 72 hours before a scheduled service. For emergency care, there is no waiver. There is no form they can hand you in the ER that removes this protection. And then the billing office does what billing offices do. The claim goes through. The explanation of benefits shows a remaining patient balance. The bill arrives in the mail. It looks exactly like every other bill you have ever received because the format is identical whether the charge is legal or not. What comes next is the part that still does not make sense to me. If you have had a hospital emergency in the last few years and received a bill that included out-of-network charges from providers at an in-network facility, that bill may have been prohibited. Pull the explanation of benefits from that visit. Look for any line that shows out-of-network providers or out-of-network rates applied to emergency services. That is where the violation shows up. To dispute it, contact your health plan directly. Tell them you believe the bill violates the No Surprises Act and you are requesting a formal review of the claim. If your health plan does not resolve it, call the No Surprises Help Desk at 1-800-985-3059. That is a federal line managed by the Department of Health and Human Services specifically for these complaints. When you reach your plan's billing department, tell them you received a bill for out-of-network services during emergency care at an in-network facility, that you believe the charge violates the No Surprises Act, and that you are requesting a formal review of the claim. Keep a copy of the bill, the explanation of benefits, and a note of every call you make, including the date and the name of the person you spoke with. Follow up in writing. The official source for everything I just described is cms.gov/no surprises. That is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services page dedicated to this specific law. Read it before you act on anything I said. Check my word against the official source. Honest limitation. This law applies to most employer-sponsored plans and individual market plans. Some short-term health plans and certain self-funded employer plans operate under different rules. If you carry Original Medicare without a Medicare Advantage plan, the interaction is somewhat different, and you should verify how the law applies to your specific coverage by calling 1-800-MEDICARE, which is 1-800-633-4227. For a while after I disputed that first charge, the billing office seemed to think I was finished asking questions. I was not finished. Charge number 2, the QMB billing prohibition. QMB stands for Qualified Medicare Beneficiary. It is one of 4 Medicare savings programs administered through your state Medicaid office. If your income and resources fall below a certain threshold, you may qualify, and if you qualify, you receive a protection written into federal law that providers who accept Medicare are legally required to honor, whether or not their front desk has ever heard of it. Under the Social Security Act, Section 119(2) N3B, and Federal Regulation 42C FR 447.15, providers and suppliers who accept Medicare are prohibited from billing QMB enrollees for Medicare Part A and Part B cost sharing. That means the deductibles, the coinsurance, and the copayments for any Medicare-covered service cannot be charged to you. The federal government reimburses state Medicaid programs to cover that cost sharing instead. The provider still gets paid, just not by you. The problem, and I want you to hear this clearly, is that most front desks do not check QMB status before they generate a bill. Their system shows a remaining balance after Medicare pays its portion, and they send it. If you are enrolled in QMB and you do not know about this protection, you pay it. Then you pay it again at the next visit. Then again, every visit for as long as you carry that status. If you're wondering how that's even legal, so is everyone else. Medicare's own guidance identifies this as one of the most common improper billing situations involving dual-eligible beneficiaries. I mean, think about that for a second. A protection woven into federal statute, and the billing office generates the invoice without ever checking whether that statute applies to the patient standing in front of them. I found this on my own records after a neighbor mentioned her bills had been cleared after a call to Medicare. I called. I asked whether I was enrolled in QMB. I was. I reported the charges I had paid that year. Medicare documented the improper billings and routed them appropriately. QMB eligibility is means tested, and the income and resource limits change each year. For 2026, the income threshold is around 100% of the federal poverty level, but that number adjusts annually, and you need to verify the current figure before relying on it. Check your eligibility at benefits.gov or by calling your state Medicaid office directly. Your county social services office can also direct you to where you apply. To check your status right now, call 1-800-MEDICARE, which is 1-800-633-4227. Ask them to confirm whether you are currently enrolled in the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program. They can look it up on the spot. If you are enrolled and a provider has billed you for Medicare cost sharing, report it on that same call. The words to use: I am calling to check whether I am enrolled in the Qualified Medicare Beneficiary Program. I have received bills for Medicare cost sharing, and I would like to report potential improper billing. They will document the report and route it to the appropriate office. Providers who continue billing QMB enrollees after notification can face penalties under federal billing rules. Honest limitation: QMB enrollment is not automatic. You apply through your state Medicaid office, and approval depends on meeting the income and resource requirements for that year. If your income is above the threshold, you will not qualify. And if the service was not covered by Medicare to begin with, the QMB protection does not extend to that non-covered portion. It covers Medicare-approved cost sharing on Medicare-covered services only. Verify every detail I just told you at Medicare.gov. Search the words QMB or Medicare Savings Programs on that site. Do not count on anything I said without checking it against the official source. If this video is helping you, subscribe before we get to the third charge. I post one of these every week built around a specific form or a specific rule that can change what you actually owe. Subscribe. Then let us finish. Enter the third charge. It is the most specific of the three, and it is the one where the billing office is counting most heavily on you not knowing the rule exists. Charge number 3. The bill for services Medicare denied without the form that made billing you legal. This one involves something called an Advance Beneficiary Notice of Non-Coverage. Medicare calls it an ABN. The official form number is CMS-R-131. The federal rule is this: if a Medicare provider believes Medicare may deny a service or item as not medically necessary, they are required by law to give you that form before providing the service, while you still have the information to make your own decision. The form tells you what the service is, why Medicare might not cover it, and an estimate of what you could be charged. You read it, you sign it, and you keep a copy. If they give you the form and you sign it, you are accepting financial responsibility if Medicare denies the claim. You had the information ahead of time, and you made an informed choice. If they do not give you the form and Medicare denies the claim afterward, they cannot collect from you. Under 42 CFR 411.408, a provider who fails to issue a valid ABN before performing a service that Medicare then denies is prohibited from billing the patient for that service. The real question is what happens in the billing department after Medicare sends the denial. They generate the bill, they mail it with the due date, and no, I am not making that up. They count on the fact that you have never heard of Form CMS-R-131 and do not know that your signature on that form is what makes the bill legal in the first place. I found a bill in my own records from a diagnostic service Medicare had denied. The provider had simply mailed me a bill after Medicare denied the service. I had never been given a CMS-R-131 for it, and there had been no prior conversation about coverage. Just a statement in the mail with a due date. If you have a bill sitting on your table right now for something Medicare denied, the first question to ask is whether you ever signed a CMS-R-131 for that service. If you did not sign one, and the provider cannot produce one with your signature dated before the service was performed, you may not owe that bill. To challenge it, call the billing office and say, "Was an advance beneficiary notice of non-coverage provided to me before this service was performed? Can you provide a copy of the signed CMS-R-131 with my name and the date prior to service?" If they cannot produce that form, put your dispute in writing, send it via certified mail, and keep a copy of everything. Then call 1-800-MEDICARE and report the situation. Tell them you believe you were billed for a Medicare-denied service and that no ABN was issued before the service took place. And contact your state health insurance assistance program. That program is called SHIP. SHIP counselors are federally funded and completely free, and they handle exactly this kind of dispute. They know the forms and they know the process. Find your state's SHIP contact at shiphelp.org. One timing point I want you to take seriously. Do not sit on a denied service bill for months before making a call. There are appeal windows and dispute timelines involved. If you receive a bill for something Medicare denied, make contact within 30 days of receiving it if you possibly can. The sooner you raise the dispute, the cleaner the process. Honest limitation. There are services that Medicare never covers under any circumstances, and an ABN is not required for those situations because Medicare's exclusion is not based on medical necessity. A different notice may apply in those cases. And if you did sign an ABN at the time and simply do not have your copy, the provider may be able to collect. The question that matters is always whether you signed that form before the service was performed. Verify this at Medicare.gov. Search the words ABN or Advance Beneficiary Notice of Non-Coverage. The form CMS-R-131 is available directly at cms.gov. These are real documents at real government addresses. Go look at them yourself. The real question is not whether these three protections exist. They do, and every one of them is documented on the federal government websites I just named. The real question is, how many statements have already crossed your kitchen table with one of these charges on them? A bill that looked official. A balance you paid because the envelope looked like every other envelope. None of this is a trick, and none of it is guaranteed. These are federal protections with eligibility requirements and real limitations. But checking whether any of them apply to your situation costs one phone call and about 10 minutes. Call 1-800-MEDICARE. Ask whether you are enrolled in QMB. Pull your last explanation of benefits from a hospital visit and look for out-of-network charges on emergency services. Ask the billing office for the CMS-R-131 with your signature dated before the service. Check everything against the official source before you count on anything. Medicare.gov for the QMB and ABN rules. CMS.gov/no surprises for the No Surprises Act protection. If this helped you, subscribe and leave me a comment telling me which bill is giving you the most trouble right now. I read every one. If enough people are dealing with the same charge, it becomes the next video. I am Dale Corbin. Take care of yourself.
Before you go, everything I just walked you through, the form numbers, the offices, the exact words to say on the phone, I wrote all of it down. 3 plain English guides, organized by the form. They are at dalecorbinbenefits.com or scan the code on your screen. I am not a lawyer and I am not from the government. These do not promise you anything. They show you how to check in about 10 minutes before you pay another bill you might not owe.